Thanks for clicking. My name is Mark Mitchell. I'm a mortgage broker here in London, Ontario. According to a new report released by the Dallas Federal Reserve, Canada's housing market may very well be in a bubble. The report released by the Dallas Federal Reserve goes over 4 measures that may indicate that a country is in a housing bubble. After going over these 4 measures, the report shows that Canada came in at number 2 for most frothiest, meaning most bubbly, most likely to be in a bubble.
Yay!
Given that all signs are pointing to the idea that we're heading into a period of higher interest rates, the strength of our real estate market will definitely be tested as the Bank of Canada introduces rate hikes in the coming year and most likely in the years ahead. So what I want to do today is go over this report saying that Canada's in a housing bubble, look at the 4 indicators and showing where we are relative to the rest of the sample size, to the other 19 countries. And then we'll finally go over some conclusions and what to look for next to be prepared for the interest rate hikes that are coming. Speaking of interest rate hikes, we will have a video out next week as Stats Canada is set to release Canada's inflation numbers, which is expected should be closer to that 5% range as the US just came in at 6%, highest inflation rate in 30 years. So click like and subscribe if you want to get those updates, but for now, let's get into our bubbly real estate. So the first indicator of a bubbly housing market in overheated real estate sector is income price to rent ratio. So that is the relative affordability of owning versus renting. When we look over the report, we can see that Canada actually ranks number 1 out of all of the countries surveyed. So relative to renting, it is by far the most expensive to own in Canada than it is to rent. So in all the other countries, if given the choice to own or rent, it is cheaper to rent than it is to own in Canada. Generally, you expect to see that the price of rent and the price of ownership to go up, not exactly in tandem, but relatively, they're going to go up sort of at the same rate. But as we've seen in Canada, the house prices have gone up so much. And I'm not saying that rent prices haven't gone up, they have. But housing prices have gone up so much that they far outpaced the cost of our rent. So that's definitely one indicator of a housing bubble, and we're number 1. So the next major factor demonstrating a real estate bubble is home price to income ratio. So that's when you take the average price of a home and divide it by the average income and come up with a number. So when you divide the house price by the income, what you want to see is a lower number, as a higher number is going to indicate that the average income in that country is overstressed for the average house price. And Canada ranked number 4 in this indicator, behind New Zealand, Portugal, and Germany. So not great for our real estate market on those first 2 indicators.
Not great, Bob.
The third indicator, and this one's very important, is household debt to GDP. That's how much a country owes versus how much it actually makes. These calculations are done all the time when you go to qualify for a mortgage. Canada came in 6th. So the report measures most consumer debt, so that's like your credit cards, auto loans, lines of credit, payday loans even, and your mortgage payments. So Canada came in 6th out of the 20 countries. So we're not number 1, so that's great, but we are a little overexpended, coming in at 106%. So we owe far more money than we actually make. Well, that makes us more susceptible to interest rate hikes, as the cost of servicing that debt does go up every time interest rates go up, which makes us more vulnerable to a housing crash. And finally, the report looks at the average price growth of the 20 countries in question. For its part, Canada came in tied for 3rd with the United States in terms of our home price growth over the last 10 years. That's not great, as the mean price growth of those 20 countries was 2.2. So our housing prices are growing at a much faster rate than the other houses throughout the study. So yeah, when you look at all these indicators, when you look at how much more expensive it is to home than rent, when you look at how much money it takes to buy a house in Canada now, when you look at the price of servicing our debt, and when you look at our overall price growth, Canada doesn't score great under any of these 4 categories. And that's why the report listed us as being the second most bubbliest highest, frothiest out of all of the countries under study. So we are especially vulnerable to a housing price correction if interest rates rise. When interest rates rise, I should say. The report does conclude that investors should be wary of investing in Canadian dollars as we are so susceptible to a correction. I don't know if I'd go that far, and obviously I'm much more knowledgeable than the Dallas Federal Reserve. In all seriousness, though. I don't know if I'd go that far that Canada's a bad place to invest. We do have a lot of fundamentals, and I think there's good reason for our house price growth. Maybe not as much as we've had, but definitely there is good reason for some of that price growth, additional price growth, as we've had a large amount of immigration over the past few years, which just simply supply and demand, we do have more people. But I do think this shows that Canadians are a little overextended and that we are highly susceptible to the interest rate shocks that are definitely coming. Well, never say definitely, but I mean, all signs seem to indicate. And even the Bank of Canada has announced that we're probably looking at rate hikes in April. I don't think we're going to see a major housing crash. Definitely not a crash, but a correction countrywide could definitely be in order. And we've gone over this in other videos. As rate hikes go higher and higher, it's going to become more expensive, one, to service the current debt that is already held by Canadians, and to qualify for more mortgage debt. So it does look like we're at minimum in for a slowdown in our housing market, and hopefully not a crash, but time will tell when we see the effects of these interest rates come out. We'll see how much our economy can take, and we'll have updates as that comes out. If you want those updates, click like and subscribe to get them, and thanks so much for watching.